I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, and she's going to come up here and give a few words of wisdom. Hope you young folks, you're paying attention. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have the high honor and privilege of introducing my friend and retired Major and warfighter, Dr. Karina Robinson. Dr. Robinson is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of On Mission, who is a sponsor of this event. Her person is better than all her accolades. But she continues to support the warfighters and enhance our national security and defense policies and supports Special Operations Command counterterrorism fellowship programs domestically and abroad. She has many unique qualifications and experiences as a leader and combat officer. She started as an enlisted soldier in the Army at the age of 17. She quickly advanced through the ranks to Sergeant First Class, promotable, and as a result of her talents, gifts, and skills and potential for increased responsibility, she was recognized and selected for the Officer Candidate School and subsequently commissioned an officer in the Military Police Corps. I initially heard about Dr. Robinson through a mutual friend who so happened to be my younger brother and best friend, Colonel retired Patrick Williams, a retired police officer as well. Dr. Robinson and I worked at the Pentagon together between 2003 and 2006. We also were afforded the opportunity to coach, teach, mentor junior officers, senior ROTC, and junior ROTC cadets through the ROTC, Inc. of Washington, D.C., basically a primary mission of mentoring, coaching, teaching, and mentoring our youth and leaders of tomorrow. While at the Pentagon, she led the Anti-Terrorism Force Protection Directorate, protecting high-risk personnel and facilities. She truly understands the instruments of power, and she utilized them effectively. They are diplomacy, informational, military, and economics, which we call the dime. She understands them, and she knows how to utilize them properly. She was selected to serve as the Legislative Affairs Director in Iraq amidst the interagencies and diplomatic officials. She also served as the Deputy Provost Marshal supporting counterterrorism operations. She is the proud and gracious mother of 3 handsome sons whom all reside here in the great state of Florida and are all college graduates, and she's very proud of them. I remember when they were younger, she used to call them she affectionately called them her fire team. And she was very proud of these young men, and they turned out to be very distinguished and great young men. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome tonight's guest speaker, Major Retired Warfighter, Dr. Karina Robinson.
I know I'm a little short, but that's okay. As long as you can hear me, you don't have to see me. You know, I'm just going to make a quick disclaimer up front. We're really privileged tonight to have a couple folks with us that I just met a few weeks ago. I was down at a fundraiser in West Palm Beach for a campaign and ran across Carlton and his colleague, Augustine. So they're wandering around with the video cameras and the cameras. But I invited them here tonight because I think what they do as a nonprofit organization is so important. It's called the Children's Coalition Incorporated. And they go around the nation and to the world to some degree, but part of their purpose is to interview veterans. And they'll do an hour-long video. They send you the questions ahead of time to prepare yourself, but they take the video and they'll archive it in the Library of Congress. So your grandkids, you know, when they want to read about all the wonderful things you've done, it's just something they do as a nonprofit. So I'm really grateful that they're here tonight. Well, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps cadets. This night really is about you, And we're all very grateful that you serve in your high schools in a capacity where we know you're going to continue to do well. I'm privileged to be here tonight as your guest and being able to share a few remarks, especially in this great town of Port St. Lucie. You know, when Bobbie and his wife first moved here, they built a big, beautiful home, and I've been down here a few times, but every time I come here and I smell the ocean just a little bit of ways and the great communities, it's just a great place to be. So who knows, maybe I'll move here one day, I'm not sure yet. But I'm humbled to be in the presence of those representing numerous high schools tonight. Fort Pierce's Central and Westwood, Port St. Lucie, Jensen Beach, Treasure Coast, Centennial is what's mentioned earlier tonight, Mark County, and South Fork. Wow. It's great to see that there's so many high school with cadets here in this area. You know, I grew up in a city in South Dakota called Rapid City, where the Black Hills and Mount Rushmore is. They didn't have a ROTC program there when I was growing up, so you're really, really fortunate to have that here. I'm also enlightened to see a lot of joint representation here tonight, Air Force, Army, Navy, and as Bobbie mentioned, so many great parents here. It's really wonderful that you're here to see the children and the cadets and everyone just aspire to do better. But you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't specifically acknowledge a couple of the true heroes we have amongst us tonight. I'd like you to just join me and just giving this special heartfelt thanks to a fellow combat veteran, Colonel retired Bobbie Williams, and his beautiful bride, who he has courted for over 38 years, Pauline. You see, Bobbie was divine. Yes, I stated divine, like saintly by definition. An inspiration to me many years ago, as he mentioned. I was just an Army captain, 03, in the Pentagon as a Joint Chief of Staff intern, serving in the depths of the Pentagon. And what I mean in the depths, we were in the basement. There wasn't any windows, there wasn't a lot of fresh air. We'd maybe roll in at 5 in the morning and we're lucky to leave at 8 or 9 at night. But we were both thrust into a major project in moving the old Army Operations Center into a newer facility. And that was moving hundreds of people, a lot of equipment, a lot of classified material, so everything had to be very meticulously done. And all the while, the Army Operations Center back there, and still does, operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So Bobbie always had this stern look, being in charge of this operation, of purposelessness. He was charging up and down the hallways, the windowless corridors, looking like a big freight train. But you know, however, he always had a lighthearted motivation and a nice thing to say. He might, you know, look all gruff, but he'd always pat you on the back. And when he knew you had a bad day, he was just gonna make you smile anyway. I've never forgotten that experience. Now, I didn't know until many months later, after working with him, that he fought in combat with the 3rd Infantry Division, you know, rolling into Iraq, blazing the trails to counter the enemy. I didn't know at the time that he and Pauline lost a son going to college due to a severe tragedy. And having 3 sons myself, that really spoke to my heart. And Pauline and I actually share the same birthday, June 28, 1965. Woohoo! You know, it doesn't 53 or something look good on us? Yes, well, but I'll tell you what, Bree, as their precious daughter, considering even about to start her PhD studies, is even more beautiful. Bobbie, Pauline, and his whole family are really like family to me. I just want to give the ladies a nice little bouquet of red roses and Bobbie a coin. Bobbie's eventual retirement ceremony at the Pentagon was probably the most enduring that I've witnessed in my whole life. As a single mother I mentioned, who raised 3 biracial sons, Mexican, African American, a little bit German, and Caucasian. They were inspiration to my family. Now, many years later, I'm truly grateful for their friendship. But more importantly, as was mentioned, the theme of this ceremony is citizenship. We all are citizens of this great nation. So as we've all traveled the world in different assignments or for different, perhaps military or not, there are pockets of travesty that we will all face at some point in time. And we may not always see the despair in our communities, but that's where we have to be good listeners and be observant of what's going on in our neighborhoods. As mentioned, I currently support the Special Operations Command, and I've been able to travel in the last 2 years to a lot of dangerous places, Guatemala, Iraq, Tajikistan. Those countries are really facing a lot of either corruption or a lack of governance, not enough security forces. And when I go there to help educate some of these ministries or militaries, I come back home to the United States and I realize how grateful we are to have a democracy, to have health care, to have education for all our children. And I'm mindful how each one of us, young or old, man or woman, must continue to make a positive difference. For example, when our young kids, perhaps our own siblings and our grandchildren, are truant or they're emotionally distraught, we need to uplift their spirits, inspire them to live by a moral compass, to be ethical. Jamil will tell you, my oldest son here tonight, he was once a Raider in JROTC in his high school class, who now lives in Fort Lauderdale playing semi-pro football with the Broward County Barracudas. He will tell you, I still run my home and my family, my sons, as a good old drill sergeant. No one gets a free ride. And as my great-grandparents once immigrated here from Mexico, they moved to South Dakota where they worked on the beet farms, they helped build railroads, and every one of the grandkids graduated high school, became American citizens. And so I stand here today being very grateful that I was given that opportunity. And so we have to, again, continue to inspire our youth, regardless of the challenges that are out there. So tonight, back to the cadets, the real purpose why we're here tonight. I just want to share a few tools for you to put in your kit bag. You only live once. Follow your passion. As day-to-day work or your studies will encompass your every waking hour, you need to love what you do because then you're bound to excel. Don't let the prestige of a special title or a paycheck be your inspiration because it's almost doomed to let you down. One of the observations I noted in working environments is how people smile and they laugh, they make eye contact. And admittedly, even to this day, I'm a hugger. And I sense sometimes people feel uncomfortable with that, and that's okay, as long as everybody is treated with respect. That's what really matters. The second nugget, for those that practice a faith, embellish it. Regardless of what faith you may follow, it could be Buddhism, being a Christian, a Muslim, whatever that faith may be, let it be your moral compass. Keep it in check and allow it to inspire others. One of these days, I'll finish my book. It's called Grace Under Fire. I'm writing it for my sons. Because as each, especially the elder folks here, at some point in your life, it wasn't your friends, your family that really saved you in that moment. It was looking deep inside and say, I can get past this. Whatever it is in my way, I can rise above it. So on a personal note, I don't say much about it, but I found my faith was strongest when I had to deal with domestic violence. And it wasn't something I felt comfortable talking about for many, many years. But now I find just to have that conversation with someone may allow them to talk about it or to confide in someone, whether it be a therapist or it be a pastor or just a friend. We should never be afraid and just continue to inspire one another. My third nugget, work hard to achieve your dreams, but be humble. As a minority, I mentioned before, I have Mexican, growing up in the Midwest, this was not easy for me. You know, I felt like I always had to be treated equitably, or at least have a voice, and that wasn't the case. I just let it really bother me sometimes, and I had to let it go. It was getting the best of me. I just said, you know, as long as you work hard and you be humble, things come full circle. You don't have to shine. You don't have to be in the spotlight. And, you know, women, they always say that we talk too much. We always want our way. We're ranting and raving. So sometimes the best thing to do is just be humble and smile through it all. And still to this day, you can imagine a 5'2" old paratrooper being on MacDill Air Force Base, where almost everybody on that installation was former Special Forces or still in active duty. There's plenty of occasions where I feel like I'm not getting a fair shake. But you know what? Just rise above it and don't let it get in your way, because it's your day-to-day performance and what you do very humbly that will eventually bring things full circle. Stay focused. That's the last nugget. You know, as our former First Lady, I was talking to a couple people here earlier tonight, Michelle Obama, she published this book called Becoming. And if you ever have the chance to read it, it's definitely inspiring. And the CDs themselves, she's actually narrating. So one of the comments that she made that I want to leave is the nugget. She said, "The noise doesn't go away, but the successful people I know have figured out how to live with it, to lean on the people who believe in them, and to push forward with their goals." Yeah, that's a good nugget, because you'll find yourself with a lot of naysayers, especially when you grow and you get into positions where you're a decision maker. You can't please everybody. You just have to surround yourself with good people, people who are very noble, who have great ethics, who will do the right thing. Out in the open too, not just behind closed doors and meetings, just always. Okay, so I will be closing here momentarily. I wanted to talk a little bit more about citizenship. One of the things, and it's not political, but that I am glad that I accepted the challenge to do, was when I was working at the Pentagon and the government shutdown was imminent, I resigned from my position to go out and encourage people to vote. As a citizen, many of our ancestors fought very, very hard for that privilege. And further than that, I wanted to serve as a politician on Capitol Hill, because I cared deeply about what was going on with the government. And I didn't like that after so many of our ancestors fought so hard for the ability to vote and to have a democratic way of life, that it didn't seem like things were going right. So what I encourage, if the cadets are not already 18 and eligible to vote, I hope every one of us who can vote will encourage them to register and to definitely vote. Regardless of what party, pay attention to the issues, because you are a U.S. citizen. And from the good old dictionary, citizenship is the status of a person recognized under the custom or law as being a legal member of a sovereign state or belonging to a nation. And I would say that's one of the most cherished things we have as Americans, is to be a citizen of this great nation. So in closing, I wish you all Godspeed, and that you continue to enable our youth to aspire, and they're our future generation, and to always reach back. Thank you very much.